Hey everyone, Mr. Fritz here. We're going to talk about exponent properties in this video. So grab those notes sheets and get ready to take some notes with me. First example we're going to talk about, let's dive into this. We want to think about unsimplifying exponents. Normally I won't really have you do this, but for the sake of learning, let's see what this means. Think about what x to the fifth actually means as an exponent. I'm sure we're all comfortable with what this means, and this means x times x times x times x times x. Really, x to the fifth means this. So keep that in mind as we move forward. If we can expand exponents, then what we're going to do with these exponent properties are going to be much more easy moving forward. So why don't you try doing the same problem. Pause the video and then expand y to the seventh and resume play when you are ready to check the answer. All right, here's my answer. It is y times y times y times y times y times y times y, 7 of them. So this is the same thing as y to the seventh. These are both equal, but I know which one I would prefer to write if I had to choose between the two. I like this. This is simple because it's the fewest amount of pen strokes. We call that simplest form. Let's try another example, kind of similar, but now I've got even more variables to work with. I've got y's and I've got x's. So if I'm just expanding this, kind of reading this from left to right, y squared becomes y times y. That takes care of this. Now let's write down my x's. X times x times x. That takes care of x to the third times x times x. That's x to the second times y times y times y times y times y. There's my y to the fifth. And you know what I like to do just for convention? Normally we like to put things in alphabetical order just to sort things nicely here. So that means that my final answer will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. X times x times x times x times x times, how many of these do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 y's being multiplied together. And you might be asking yourself, isn't there a better way that I can write these things? And you'd be right. And that's what we're going to do pretty soon. But first, why don't you try this example? I want you to expand this and then write it in alphabetical order. Pause the video and give this problem a shot. All right, here's my answer. Once I have expanded everything, I rewrote stuff in alphabetical order. So I've got 4 of these guys, and I've got 3 of these guys. So next up, let's talk about how to actually write this in the simplest form. I would say this is not the simplest way of writing this quantity. I'd say that where I started, y squared times x to the fourth times y, that's not even the simplest way to write it. Might be better than this, but we can still go simpler. So let's go into now actually using these properties. We want to simplify this expression here. Well, let's think about what we did before when we expanded. Let's first start off by expanding the expression that we have. This is x squared, so this is going to equal x times x. Then I have times x. Let's say I'll scratch that guy out since I took care of that one. That's x squared times x. We'll scratch that guy out. And then times x to the third, or x cubed. So that's 1, 2, 3 of these guys. Took care of all of these. Now that I've expanded it, let's count. Oops, let me try spelling count better. Count the x's. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. That means that I'm multiplying x by itself 6 times. The simpler way to write this is x to the 6th power. So the third thing I would do is I would rewrite as a power. All right, so now I have my exponent of 6. I have my base of x. This is simple. This is the simple of all these 3 ways. I would say this final one is the simplest way to write this quantity here. All right, why don't you try this one? Pause the video and follow those same steps that we did in the last portion, the last problem, and then pause or resume the video when you're ready to check your answer. This one comes out to be x to the 7th. Did you get it? Hope so. Let's try the next one. A little bit trickier still. So we're just kind of climbing the mountains of exponent properties. We're going to do the same thing we did before. Let's expand. This is going to equal 2, took care of the 2, times x to the fourth, that's x times x times x times x, took care of that guy, times 3, took care of that guy, times y, took care of that guy, times x squared, that's 2 of those, times y to the third, that's 1, 2, 3. Now let's sort all this stuff. I've got lots of y's and x's and numbers jumbled all over the place. And with multiplication, I can rearrange the order of these things. Because remember, if I had 2 times 3, which we all know is 6, that's the same thing as 3 times 2. So because I can move around factors whenever I multiply, I can do the same thing if they're x's and y's. So let's do that. I'm going to put all of my numbers together, my constants. So I'm going to say 2 times 3. That takes care of those two. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4 of these guys. That takes care of those 4. I've got 2 x's over here. 1, 2. That takes care of those 2. I think we're done with x's, so let's go to the y's. Here's my first y. And then I've got 1, 2, 3 more y's. 1, 2, 3. All right, I think that's everything. Now that I've sorted this into a nice way, let's multiply the common stuff. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's see. I have a 2 times 3. Those are numbers that I can multiply. So this is just 6. Over here, I've got x being multiplied by itself 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So that is x to the 6th. And then I have y, 1, 2, 3, 4. Y being multiplied by itself 4 times. So this is y to the 4th power. This is my final answer. This is completely simplified. And we write all of these numbers together because, remember, this implies multiplication between them. Even though I don't see the multiplication symbols, if I've got numbers and variables next to each other, I am multiplying those things. A little bit trickier of an example. Why don't you try one that's kind of like it? If you need to go back and rewatch those steps from before, please do so. But pause the video when you're ready to try and resume when you're ready to see the answer. This one comes out to be 20x to the 4th, y to the 3rd. Check out this solution if you need to look it over. All right, next up, we're moving. We are on the next stage of climbing that mountain. Hopefully no one's fallen off the mountain yet. I want to raise a power to a power. What does that mean? Well, I have all these exponents, all these powers, they're themselves being raised to a new power. So let's do the same thing that we did before, and let's expand what's going on here. So first, let's do this. Let's rewrite xy squared raised to the 3rd power in a different way. Remember, what this means is if I have some number that's raised to the 3rd power, that's just equal to that number being multiplied by itself 3 times. So what I want to do then is I want to take this whole stuff, this whole term that's inside of these parentheses, and multiply by itself 3 times. So let's do that. This is going to equal xy squared times xy squared times xy squared. So here's 1, 2, 3. Next up, let's do this. Let's expand as we've done so before. So now I've taken care of this outside exponent. Maybe I'll just put a slash through it, so I'm done with that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand everything that's inside of these parentheses. So this is going to become x times y times x times y times y times x times y times y. All right, so now we're kind of where we've been before. I can group these all together. Let's get all the x's together. So this will be x times x times x. And then let's take care of the y's. So I've got 2 here, 1, 2. 2 here, times y, 2 here, times y, times y. All right, let's simplify this. Final stage here. Let's group these x's together. I've got 3 of them. So this is going to equal x to the 3rd. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 y's. So I have y to the 6th. So quite a large process. But what we did to reflect is we broke down this quantity into multiplying by itself 3 times since it's raised to the 3rd power. Then we expanded. We sorted out our x's and y's, and we combined our common bases. Why don't you try a similar example? Now I've got x cubed times y raised to the 4th power. Pause the video, give this one a shot. All right, and here is my answer. X to the 12th, y to the 4th. You can see all my work right in here. Hopefully you got it. Moving right along. Example 6. We are almost there. We are like more than halfway up the mountain. I'm excited. Hopefully you're excited too. Let's simplify this problem together. Again, I'm taking this whole quantity and raising it to the 3rd power. So let's start off by taking that quantity and multiplying by itself 3 times. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking this 2x squared y to the 3rd and I'm multiplying it by itself once, twice, 3 times. Now let's expand. Let's go with red for expand. Okay, so this is 2 times x times y times y times y times 2 times x times y times y times y times 2 times x times y times y times y. All right, took care of all of these. Now I'm going to kind of skip a step here. I'm not going to sort these out, but I'm going to actually multiply them together. So let's multiply all the numbers together. I've got 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So this is going to be 8. Now let's take care of the x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This will be x to the 6th power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of these y's being multiplied by itself. This is 8x to the 6th y to the 9th power. Now those of you might have caught on to this, but there actually is a simpler way to approach this problem where you can actually kind of jump from here all the way down to the bottom. I'm not going to reveal that quite yet. Maybe you see it, maybe you don't. But for now, let's continue with this practice of expanding and sorting. That way we can kind of go through this in a way that ensures we don't make any mistakes. Now why don't you try this problem? It's very similar to the last one. Expand, sort it out, multiply it together, and we'll see what you get. And here's my answer for this one. 9x squared times y to the 4th. All right, we're going to take these two properties, multiplying and powers of powers, and we're going to smash them together and do both at the same time. Wow, it's going to be nuts. So we got 2 more examples, 2 more you tries, and then that's all the new stuff for today. So let's do what we did before. Let's rewrite this multiplied by itself 3 times. So this is going to be 2xy squared times 3x times 2xy squared times 3x times 2xy squared times 3x. All right, now let's expand what's on the inside. So this is going to equal 2 times x times y times 3 times x times 2 times x times y times 3 times x times 2 times x times y times 3 times x. Need something? Okay. All right, moving right along. Let's multiply all of our numbers together. And so we have 2 times 3, that's 6. I'm going to keep track of what's going on off to the side here. So 2 times 3 times 2 times 3 times 2 times 3. So actually this is like a 6 times 6 times 6, which is 216. Oops, try that again. 216. You can check my math on that with a calculator. So this is going to be 216. Took care of all those numbers. Now let's count the y's. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this will be x to the 6th power. Let's scribble those guys out. Now let's count our y's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 y's. So I've got 216 x to the 6th, y to the 6th. Hopefully you can put that together and do the similar type of process with this you try number 7. Pause the video, give this one a shot. All right, my final answer for this one is 4x to the 6th, y to the 6th. Final example that we'll do together here. I want to multiply these two things. What's different about this one is I have this whole power of a power and then I multiply. So this looks a little bit tricky, but we're going to apply the same practices as before. Let's expand and then multiply. So what I'll do first is I'm going to take care of this and raise that to the 2nd power. So this is going to equal 3 times x times y times 3 times x times y. There's that piece done. That's all going to be multiplied. I'm just going to switch colors here. That's all going to be multiplied by this whole quantity. So I need to take this and multiply it by itself 3 times. So that's 2 times x times 2 times x times x times 2 times x times x. So I kind of did 2 steps at the same time. I expanded this power and I expanded what was on the inside. That way I'm looking at only x's and y's and numbers. So now let's combine everything together, and we'll make sure that we don't miss any of our numbers or letters. So let's cross things out as we go. So we've got 3 times 3, that's 9. Times 2, that's 18. Times 2, that's 36. Times 2, that's 72. So again, I would check me on that. Make sure that you have that right, or that I have that right. All right, next let's count the x's. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's x to the 8th power. And now let's do the y's. 1, 2, that's it. So y to the 2nd. This final simplified answer is 72 x to the 8th y to the 2nd. Last problem, you all. Give this one a shot. This is a bit of a doozy, but if you take your time, expand, and multiply, I think you'll get this. Pause the video, give it a shot. Good luck. I believe in you. Okay, and here is the final answer. Did you get it? I hope so. We have talked about multiplying these things. We've talked about raising powers to powers, and there are more things to come, but we'll stop there for today. So good luck with the rest of practice, and I will see you all in class.